It is the last Friday of the month. It is season 2, episode 5 of PocaTV Live. Special guest today is Humaniser of Humanity and former Dutch politician Kathleen Ferrier. Let's do this.
Give me this. Give me that. Give me this. Give me that.
Hi again, everybody. Welcome to season 2, episode 5. My goodness, where has time gone? This is PocaTV Live, that monthly program in which I talk to one of my fabulous guests, fabulous friends, I must say, all across the globe who do wonderful stuff to make this a better world for you and me to live in. As I was saying, my special guest today is Kathleen Ferrier. She has a long story in which we will get when we get to it. But in the meantime, let me first welcome you. Thank you for joining. You know how I love it when you send us a comment. So please do so in the live chat on YouTube or on Facebook. And hopefully I will see your comments here in my studio. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to PocaTV on YouTube or like the Facebook page? You know, it's all about clout these days, people. And if I do not have any clout, then I will forever be, you know, the amateur in the wings doing little programs that are of no consequence to you know, the people with the big bucks. Because in the end, isn't that what would be wonderful, to get some bucks for doing this program? I've done a couple of little changes. Notice the new background. Notice that I am now telling you it is season 2, episode 5, so that when you rummage through all the PocaTV videos online, you will know exactly where you are. Just need to remember that Kathleen Ferrier is the person who is my guest in season 2, episode 5. You know, I mean business when I'm wearing my mother's earrings, right? So, hi, Mom. I know you're watching. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the beautiful screenshots you always make, with which I make my guests really happy after the show. And, well, I'm also, you know, wearing my sister's ring, the ring she bequeathed to me, Aisha. I wear it on my index finger because, you know, to keep me in line. And many of you know that I always livicate these programs to her because she was such a great fan of PocaTV. And she actually came up with the idea of going live at the beginning of this century, when really that was not an option. This is a picture of Aisha when she was about 10, maybe 11 years old. She was a student at the American School of Tunis in Tunisia, where we lived at the time. And Aisha was always one to love drama and theater. And this is her performing in the school musical, The Mikado, written by Gilbert and Sullivan. And of course, Aisha, being the boisterous person that she was, she had one of the main roles. I'm not sure I remember the name of the person she was. She was some Japanese woman with some clout. And she sang and she acted. And actually, before the real musical, she was there for weeks rehearsing her songs. So by the time the real musical came along, we all knew the lyrics. And we were happy for it to be over. But she was such great fun, and she was such a performer, really. So, yeah, dedicated once again to Aisha. Missing her a lot these days. It's been 11 years since she's gone, and it's not getting any easier. No, there are days when I really miss her, and this is maybe the time of year that is the case. So, never forgotten, Aisha Hunkar. That brings me to my regular viewers. Hi, everybody. Glad to have you with me again. Without you, what would this be, really? So thank you for being there. I'm seeing that Evelyn is already there. Hi, Evelyn. Presente, she said, we would say on Aruba. Yes, she is presente, and meaning present. Thank you for watching, Evelyn. Looking forward to your comments later on in the program, because I know you are one to have some really astute comments once in a while. So looking forward to that. Evelyn Bruce. Welcome also to the people watching for the very first time. I mean, there's always a reason for you to not have watched anything before this. So welcome. Happy to have you with me. Yes, I do these live programs once a month on the last Friday of each month. But I also do have a whole lot of other videos online already on PocaTV, whether that be on YouTube or Facebook. So have a rummage around, have a look. Maybe you'll like what I do. And, subscribe or like the page. This brings me to my guest of today. Like I said, I switched around a couple of things. You'll get used to it. She is joining me from the Netherlands, where I am now myself. And I have been calling her the humanizer of humanity. She's a former Dutch politician, and I'm really thrilled to bits that she's joining me today. Say hi to Kathleen Ferrier. Good evening, Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Aldit. Thank you so much for having me. It is such an honor to be in your famous PocaTV. And, I was so happy when you invited me, not only because the wonderful PocaTV, but also to have a chance to talk with you, because always talking with you, interviews with Aldit, since I know her, which is way back, it always has this extra depth. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I must reciprocate, Kathleen, because you have been supporting me from way at the beginning of the years when I stepped out into the public life. And you've always had my back. You've given me some solid advice during the years. You've even told me a couple of things were going to be happening in the future, and they did, and they also affected my life. So and I know you're a very, very, very busy woman. So thank you for taking this time to join me. There, we've got, So Kathleen, I was telling the regular viewers, I've switched around some things. I used to start the program with the clip from last month, my guest last month. But I thought, you know what? Why not get my new guest to react to that? So that's what I'm going to do from now on. Last month, my guest was Francio Guadalupe, social and cultural anthropologist here in the Netherlands. He stems from Aruba, and he's made quite a name for himself when it comes to the approach of anti-racism, because Francio says, we should tackle and we should do our anti-racism without using race. So that was a really complicated story, and I urge you to have a look once you have time. But we also did talk about the Caribbean, which I know is one of your favorite spots, as it is mine. And we were touching on the fact that the Caribbean these days is, it's waking up. It's taking action, because especially the former British islands. If you remember correctly, William and Kate visited the islands in the Caribbean, and there was a lot of protest because many islands say, no, we don't want you here as our sovereign anymore. Come here and be welcome, but you are not the boss any longer. So this is one of the things I was talking to Francio Guadalupe about, and let's have a look at how that went. I think it's a fascinating time in the Caribbean. Do you agree?
It is a fascinating time, and I think it's an example of reparations.
Yeah.
Because many people think about reparations, and they think about reparations in the financial sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
But reparations is also mental reparation.
Yeah.
To say it isn't normal that some people will say they are kings and we are subjects. No, everyone is a subject to one another. It isn't normal that if things happen that you can't say, sorry, I apologize. Redistribution is a must.
Francio, they cannot say it. They say, I feel sorrow, but they do not say, I am sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's a problem, and that will necessarily mean that across the globe, in this age of reparations, which is the 21st century, across the globe in the Caribbean, but also elsewhere, people will start that process of repairing themselves, and the more they repair themselves, the more they will say, we don't accept that anymore.
Would you like to comment on that shortly, Kathleen?
Yes, I absolutely want. I know Francio very well. I'm the chair of the Dutch UNESCO Commission, and Francio, as one of the scientists who knows a lot about the Caribbean region, but not only that, also a lot about heritage, is a very important person to us. What I like very much, because the discussion on reparation is moving fastly. And as you know, in the Netherlands, first the cities came with their scientific research on what their role has been during the time of slavery.
And that took forever.
Amsterdam was the first one, then Rotterdam, The Hague, Utrecht is working on it. So now the banks, the Dutch National Bank and other banks are doing research to find out what their role has been. And the result of all this research is going to be a talk about this word that is so hard to say, sorry, but together with sorry comes reparations.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting because I'm more or less involved in this discussion in the Netherlands, is that when you say reparations, people always think about finances. But within the communities, there are so many interesting ideas that go far beyond only the financial reparation.
Exactly.
And what I loved in Francio's wisdom is that he was saying, you know, reparation is not one people giving to another. It is something that affects us all.
All.
It is, yes, it's not that I say, oh, I'm sorry to you. Saying that also has an effect on you. You also repair yourself. We
Exactly.
are equals, you know, and that is what I liked very much in what Francio was saying.
I agree with you, and probably this mindset of thinking that reparations is only about some people paying money to others. Once that mindset is changed to what you are sketching there, I think things will be easy. And
absolutely.
Let's jump ahead a little. Next year will be an important year because it will be on paper. No, not on paper. In practice, it will be 150 years
Yes.
since the Netherlands abolished slavery in the former colonies, Suriname and the islands. On paper, it was 10 years earlier, but in practice, it was in 1873. So I wonder, with, like you said, the banks saying, you know, we had a role in this, and the large cities as well. I wonder if finally maybe the prime minister or even the king will say something. What do you think, Kathleen?
That will happen. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know when, I don't know where, but it is inevitable.
It is.
It has to happen, and it will happen. But what I keep saying, Aldit, I see an enormous risk in this talking about saying sorry, apologies, because I'm afraid that once apologies have happened, and it will happen, absolutely, that then people say, okay, now you have had your apologies. It's over now. So
it's
now
over
we
now.
go back to business, back to usual. And that is not enough. The apologies, all that, are not enough. What the country needs is a spiritual process to move along.
Yeah,
it's what you are saying, you know, once you see that it is not me giving you something so that you can be happy and content. No, it is something that also does something very positive for me. We are in this together.
Right.
The time of some people giving to others is over. We
It's
all
over.
need each other.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure we'll get plenty of time to talk about these subjects as we go along, Kathleen. But as always, we must start at the very beginning. And you sent me some lovely pictures of you as a child. I did some snooping around your Facebook and found a whole lot more. So are you ready for this? Here we go to your early childhood. That's the
Yeah.
finger pointing at you, you and your sister Joan.
Yes.
You were born in Suriname, as was I. What kind of childhood did you have at that age? You were quite young at that age, I believe,
Yeah.
maybe 2 years old.
Yeah. I think I was 2 years old, and my sister Joan, she was, I think, 5 years old. And, I was really, really touched by the way you memorized and gave tribute to your sister Aisha, because, Joan and I were always very close.
Yes.
And she passed away this year already 8 years ago. And it is like you are saying, there are times when you can handle it, and there are weeks and days in which you can't handle it, because I miss her so much. So talking about my childhood, it was a very happy childhood. And the older I get, the more I realize how exceptionally happy our home was, filled with love. Imagine parents that wake you up every day saying you are a child loved by God and
Wow.
made for happiness. So that is something that gets into you every day. I'm loved and I'm made for happiness. And that gives you a very strong start in life.
And has it actually turned out that way?
Of course not. Life is not only happiness, but that is the wonderful part of it.
Yeah.
When, as a child, you get the notion that you are loved, whatever happens, you are loved. And that
It does give you
happiness,
backbone, doesn't it?
it absolutely gives you backbone, and and you need it, because of course, as we all know, life is not easy, and it is not only happiness. On the contrary, well, we
Exactly.
have to look at our world today, and there is
And say no more. Exactly.
and say no more.
Yes. So this is a picture I found of Paramaribo, the capital city of Suriname, where you and I were young girls in the 1960s. Do you remember that it looked this way?
Actually, when my first school years, I lived in the Netherlands. I lived in The Hague.
Oh,
So
did you?
I was only 1 or 2 years old when we moved from Paramaribo to The Hague, and I stayed there till I was 8 or 9, and then we moved back to Billiton.
To Billiton, yes,
to
which
Billiton.
is a small town outside of the capital city,
Yeah.
where bauxite was mined.
Exactly, exactly, aluminum. And so, we lived there, and that was paradise. For us children, it was paradise, because we lived, our garden ended up in the jungle. So we were all day outside, roaming around, climbing the trees, watching beautiful flowers, seeing snakes, bosspinnen. It was a wonderful
Tarantulas.
time.
It's so
Yes.
wonderful to have a couple of tarantulas in your backyard, so you can just play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we moved to Paramaribo when I was 11 years old, and
Right.
and that I remember. The picture you showed, that is
Okay.
Paramaribo.
Yes,
remember.
because it is the way I remember Paramaribo from when I was young. Yeah. Um, this is you with your parents. Lovely people, Johan. Tell us about them.
Yeah, this picture was taken in the Tropical Institute in Amsterdam, and this was the day my father became the last governor of Suriname. This was the reception, and like I was saying, I had a very happy youth with two fantastic parents, and basically I had such a fantastic youth because my parents whatever job or task or position they had in life, they were teachers. That is what they really are. So passing knowledge on to others. They always said to my sister and myself, that is the best thing you can do in life. It's the most beautiful job on earth. Passing your knowledge to others. Giving others the opportunity to develop themselves, to become the people they are meant to be. Give them the platform. That is what a teacher does. So these are my fantastic parents, Edme Celia Vaz and Johan Henry Elisa Ferrier, and then my sister Joan Mary. That's exactly. The four of us.
That's the four of you. And there's a couple more. We'll touch about on them.
Yes.
Your half brothers and sisters. We will definitely talk about them. Let me check where we are in the program right now. Yes. These wonderful parents of yours. You're just telling us your father became the last governor of Suriname. Suriname used to be a colony of the Netherlands, for those who do not know. And then at one certain point, in fact, in 1975, independence came to the country.
Yes.
And this is the Independence Square right in front of the palace in Paramaribo. And your father, of course, being the last governor, had a great shot at more, which did happen. Let's have a look what happened on the 25th of November, 1975.
Paramaribo enkele uren voor het begin van de onafhankelijkheid. Tegen middernacht beginnen in het stadion van de Surinaamse hoofdstad de feestelijkheden in tegenwoordigheid van prinses Beatrix en prins Klaus. Alle bevolkingsgroepen in hun eigen specifieke dracht zijn vertegenwoordigd in het stadion als onder het spelen van het volkslied de vlag van de nieuwe Republiek Suriname wordt gehesen. Ook voor gouverneur Ferrier is dit duidelijk een groots en ontroerend moment.
It's actually interesting that the commentator of that video still called your dad the governor of Suriname, because that was the point when he became the first president of Suriname.
He was sworn in as president the day after that. So at that moment, he still officially was the governor. So, But it was a very emotional moment for our family.
What do you remember of it? Where were you?
I remember every second of it. I was there. We were there. My sister Joan and I, we were there. And it was a very, very emotional moment to see the old flag go down and the new flag go up. And it was especially emotional because my parents have always said that Suriname is strong enough to stand at its own feet. My father started at a very young age as a teacher. And even before he was a teacher, he already made a book on history and geography for Surinamese students, so that they did not have to learn what Dutch children learn about their reality. So they always found it so important that Surinamese people learn about Suriname, learn about the Caribbean, learn about the continent we're in, and feel the pride of being Surinamese people. So that even at a very young age, as 16 years old, my father started with putting emphasis, we can do it ourselves. He started when he was in his 20s, a political party, and that had the idea that we are boss in our own house, in our own home. We decide for ourselves, Surinamese people. And the moment during the Second World War, when then Queen Wilhelmina in December 1942 said, and that was under pressure of the United States, it's not that she really wanted this, she said, we have to get rid of our colonies. So
in 42, she said that?
Yes, in 42, in a very important speech. And then my father, with his political group, he started as a teacher and with a group of teachers, and they entered politics. And then they said, aha, we are not going to lose this one. This is said, this is a promise, we will keep them to it. And that resulted in 1954 to the Statute of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, in which there is no longer a talk about colonies, but 3 officially equal parts of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. So that day, when Suriname got its independence, was a very emotional day.
I can only imagine. I wasn't in Suriname at the time, so I missed all of the fun. But would you say that that statute, that actually is in effect now?
Yeah. Well, if you look, Suriname has its independence. So Suriname is out of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. But when I look at the relation between the Netherlands and the Caribbean part of the kingdom, unfortunately, I cannot say that there is really equal parts of one kingdom that support each other.
You're putting it mildly, aren't you?
Yeah,
you're being political about it.
Diplomatically.
Of course you are.
Yeah, so there's still a lot of work to do in that sense.
There is, yeah. Let me take a quick look in the comments section, Kathleen, because people are frisky there saying, here's my good friend DJ Conscious saying, many say an apology is a can of worms as it's an admission of guilt and becomes slippery slope for governments. What would you say to this?
I don't think it's a slippery slope for governments. That is what many people think, because they think, once we have had apologies, then people will start asking for reparations. And these are all assumptions. Why don't you start the discussion and find out what people really want?
Exactly.
And because I know there are some very interesting ideas on how reparations also involving Africa, Europe, and the Caribbean, because I think that reparations should be focusing on the Caribbean area, where the effects of slavery are still very strong.
Yes.
So there are interesting ideas.
Do you believe that this frame of mind, and I understand why DJ Conscious mentions it, but do you feel that this frame of mind is an excuse to not broach the topic?
It is an excuse, but more than that, it is just an assumption, and that is what happens so often. People think, oh, this is going to be a slippery slope, a can of worms.
Let's not go there. Exactly.
We better stay away from it. And it is always the assumptions, the images we have of others.
Yes.
The images we have of what will happen or what will be an effect. Who knows?
Who knows?
About it.
Let's talk about it. Exactly. Yes. Adrienne is saying greetings to Poca and Ms. Ferrier. Adrienne, you should know, is my eldest sister, and my brother is here as well. Hi, Melvin. He's saying it will happen, the apologies, but not with this prime minister. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. There's one more picture of your dad that I really need to share with the world, because I know you like to share it.
Yes.
That's him with the greatest of all, Muhammad Ali. How did this happen?
Muhammad Ali.
Oh, wow.
Muhammad Ali was visiting Suriname, and he wanted to meet my father.
He was in Suriname?
Yeah, he was in Suriname. This was in Suriname. And somehow these two men had a wonderful click. And that is why I love this picture, because you can see it. This Muhammad Ali is a huge man. My father was not that tall. So with his hand on his shoulder and these two men smiling, so lovely. I love this picture.
Oh, I'm
They had
sure
a
you do.
wonderful click. They talked for a long time.
And what do you know what the click was? Because
No, I
we
don't.
know
Yeah,
about Muhammad Ali. He was one of the first big people, world famous people, to publicly say, "Look here, I am no longer your slave, and I am going to do things my way. And if I want to call myself Muhammad Ali, I will damn well call myself Muhammad Ali." So
yeah,
he was one on the forefront of emancipation.
yes.
Is that where he and your father found common ground? Maybe.
Yes, I'm not exactly sure what they talked about all that
Mm-mm.
time, but I think the click indeed had to do with the fact that they both find it important that
Exactly.
people are capacitated to take their own decisions and
Yeah.
not depend on others, not on
Exactly.
other people, neither on other nations. And I think that is something that they really found in each other and shared experiences and things like that.
Wonderful. I mean, the Ferrier family must have talked about this for years and years and years. And I know you share this picture often, so that's why
I
I
love
took
it.
it upon myself to spread it a little bit further. Yeah. Kathleen, we're about halfway through our time, about-ish.
Whoa.
And we are now in the segment that all of my guests really dread. Are you ready for this? Here we go.
I don't know.
5 quick questions to...
Yeah, it's the 5 quick questions to Kathleen
Yes.
Ferrier. This is the part of the program, Kathleen, in which I fire 5 quick questions at you. I give you the answers, and you have to choose one of the answers I give you, and you're not allowed to elaborate until after we've done all 5. Then I'll give you 1 or 2 opportunities to elaborate. Are you okay with this?
I have to.
You have to. You have no choice. I really love this part. So here comes question number 1. How do you identify, as Dutch or as Surinamese?
I have neither, as a world, somebody who lives in the world.
World citizen? I didn't give you that option. So if you had to choose, what would it be?
Surinamese.
Surinamese. All right. I'm making your life hard. I've been reading some interviews with you, and one of them was with your son, Ezra, in which he described you as a person, and he said you never ever take a rest. So my next question is, question number 2, what would you rather have if you had, the power to decide? Would that be work or leisure?
You're making it so hard.
I know, that's what it's all about.
Leisure.
Really? Oh, that's interesting. I thought you were like me, one of those never leisure people. Okay, we'll keep it at that. Question number 3. The pandemic has upsides too. Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Oh, you're very definite about that.
Absolutely.
Good. All right. Number 4, and please don't be too diplomatic about this. Number 4, the Dutch Christian Democrats, of whom you are a part, have forgotten about the Christian part in their name. Yes or no?
No.
Kathleen.
No.
Okay. All right. Last question. You're doing really well. Congratulations. Last question, number 5. What is the one thing, Kathleen Ferrier, that you would never, ever, ever, ever do again?
Do what others want me to do.
Ah, that sounds like some old trauma coming there. Yeah, I can understand. All right, I can even relate to that. So I'm giving you the opportunity now, Kathleen, to choose two of these questions on which you may elaborate. Which questions would you like to talk more about?
I want to talk about the work and leisure, and I want to talk about the pandemic.
Okay. Work and leisure. You chose leisure, and we all know you as somebody who's always on the road, always doing a thing, always speaking somewhere, always writing an article. I don't even know if you recognize your own family, yet you tell me leisure. How does that work?
Now, let me tell you, I love my work. And since I love my work, it does not feel, it is not feeling like work. You know, you might say that I have leisure all the time, you know, but that is a bit of a bit of an innocent way of talking. I
Yeah.
love my work, so it doesn't feel to me like something that is very stressful. It is a lot, and it is a lot of different things, and that is what tires my head every now and then. You have to switch from in between subjects, and that is a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But I know how, and I said leisure, because I know how important leisure is. Not only for myself, but certainly in this part of the world where people think that their only value is through working. And I have lived in many places. That's why I found it so difficult to say whether I'm Dutch or Surinamese. I do not feel neither of them. I love Chile. I love Brazil. I lived in Hong Kong. I love Southeast Asia. So, you know, I feel part of it. When I see it, it's home. So, but okay, then. So in those parts of the world, people know how important it is just to take your time to sit down, do nothing, think, go out in nature, enjoy what you see and what it does to you, the energy it gives. And, you know, I see people here stressed, running, and that is why I say, you know, giving an example also in how important it is to take time for yourself, go out in nature, go out to the woods, go to the beach, and see how everything is related. It gives you a sense of relaxation that is
and
badly
even
needed.
maybe of belonging right where you
Yes,
are. Yeah.
exactly, right where you are, and also that we are part of the planet, that everything is circular in the planet. And when you're out in nature, when you have the rest in your head, you see it, and it gives you so much. And it is that awareness
Yeah.
that is so much lacking in
It's
our
in our
day-to-day
society.
life,
Yes,
especially in this part of the world. That's
exactly. Where
why I
people,
said it.
yeah, people seem to think that leisure is going to a cafe and getting drunk, or you must go dancing, or you must, it's always some action, and it's always in a group, and it's as if people have lost the ability to just be,
And
and to
be
just
quiet.
and be quiet, right? Oh, I can totally relate. So that is what you do when you find a moment for yourself. You just sit and contemplate life.
Yes, and go
Yeah.
out. I love the beach. I love the sea. That the sea that connects the continents, you know, the
Yeah.
waves that bring us other atmospheres. And I love nature. I love being in the woods, seeing how plants grow this season of the year here in the Netherlands. When you see how everything is starting again, this circular process, it's so wonderful to see it
It's
happening.
almost a miracle, even. Yes.
It is.
Yes, Kathleen, your little microphone is rubbing against your shawl, I
Oh,
believe.
so I'm
Uh,
sorry. I'm getting too excited, you know.
well, we love it when
Yeah.
that happens, but we still want the audio to be okay. So thank you for shifting a little bit there. Let me see, because people are really commenting. Let me see.
I don't
Oh,
see the comments. Is that right?
can you see them now on the right hand side of your screen?
No,
No.
I see
Oh,
private chat. Ah,
good.
comments. I have to open it.
Yes, do open comments. Are you seeing them now?
Aha, now I see them.
I'm seeing Kimberly McRae. Hi, Kim. Great of you to watch. Kimberly was my guest in March. Leisure is very important, is what she says, and we did talk about that when she was my guest. And she also liked the comment of belonging right where you are. Let's see what my sister is a big fan of yours, I must say. So she's telling me now your elaborations are very clever, but that is why I invited you, isn't it, Kathleen?
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Adriana.
Yeah, it's great to have people watching and commenting. The second question you wanted to elaborate on was the pandemic question, and it was the pandemic had upsides 2? Yes or
Yes.
no? And you
Yeah.
said definitely yes.
Yes.
Be my guest.
In Suriname, we have this important saying, "Wan ogri char wan boom." Even if something very bad is happening, there's always something positive also part of it. And, the pandemic, it has been such a horrible time. There has been so much suffering, and it has caused so much pain and death and loneliness and despair. But what it has done, and what I think is hugely important, is that it has shown us how much we human beings depend on each other and how strongly we are related. The COVID-19 has shown us that it does not make any distinction between who you are, where you live, borders of countries or continents. And what it has done, it has shown us that the differences we see so clearly now, thanks to COVID, the difference in the textile of our societies, how in certain parts of the world and in certain continents and in certain parts of countries, people suffered so much more
Than in
because
others.
of the pandemic, is because of us. So we have seen how equality, how terrible the lack of equality, how inequality. We cannot close our eyes any longer for this inequality.
Yet we do, Kathleen, because especially in this part of the world, the Western part, COVID is over, is what they say. Of course it isn't, but we are back to where we were. And I don't know if you have the same feeling, but at the beginning of the pandemic, I had this hopefulness that the insights that you're just mentioning, that they would come to the surface and that we would actually act on them. And they did come to the surface, but I don't think we're really acting on them, are we?
Sometimes I ask myself also, Aldit, what more do we need to suffer to finally open our eyes that the challenges we are facing, how huge they are and how much we need each other to really give an answer to them. But I'm not too pessimistic. For instance, I'm the chair of the Dutch UNESCO Commission. Every year, we come out with a report on the state of education, for instance. And in the reports that were published during COVID, it became so clear how students, how children in certain parts of the world totally lost, and there was no education for them.
Yes.
It was simply not possible because there's no Wi-Fi, no internet.
And there's not even a phone or a tablet to do it.
There's nothing. And also here in the Netherlands, where we thought, well, we are the richer part of the world. Also here in many schools only now found out how many children there are that are not in a safe and quiet situation at home, who do not have a private place for them to study, and so this all became clear. And as for UNESCO, we are really taking concrete steps to tackle all this inequalities around the world, but also in our own country.
Well, we'll be talking about UNESCO at the end of the program. Of course we are, because you're doing fantastic work there. But first, if you'll allow me, I would like to give our viewers the opportunity to join us in the studio if they have an intelligent question or comment for Kathleen Ferrier. Scan this code with your phone. Hold your phone horizontally, people. Really, we are not Instagram. We are proper television. So hold your phone horizontally, scan the code that you're seeing now. And alternatively, if you are watching on a laptop and you wish to join us, then use this URL, bit.ly/PTVL PocaTV Live 0205, Season 2, Episode 5. Either way, join us and do have something constructive to say, or I will be ruthless and kick you out. I love when I have to do that. So yeah,
I wouldn't expect that from you.
Really.
Kicking out.
What did you think? I was just a friendly person.
No,
Kathleen.
I thought you would do it, but to say that you love to do it.
Well, if they irritate me,
Yes.
I love all people unless they irritate me, and when they irritate me, I can be ruthless.
You kick them out.
I do kick them out. Let's move on, Kathleen, because you've been telling us about the way you look at humanity, your hopes for that, and also your the questions that you have, whether or not we are going in the right direction. What it did is it got you into politics in the Netherlands. Help me out with the years. How long were you?
I entered Parliament in 2002 as a member of the Christian Democratic group in Parliament, and I stayed there over 10 years. When in 2012 government fell, there were problems, so no longer the government could not go on. I said to my party, it's not necessary to have new elections. We can go on with a minority government. CDA, my party, and the Liberals, the Christian Democrats and the Liberals, but they wanted elections. And so I had the question for myself, do I want to commit myself for 4 more years in Parliament? And then I thought, I've been a member of Parliament for 10 years, and you know something, Aldit, politicians who think that they are irreplaceable and who do not want to move away are a threat to democracy and are a pain in the ass for the countries and their parties where they stick to their seats.
Oh, yes.
So I said, I will go.
I know you're not in a position to say these things, so that's why I will say we are now in a situation where we have people in power who are sitting in their seats, who are not moving, who have brought this country down. So it was me who said it. But there was a point, Kathleen, where you stood up within your own party in such a way that they even labeled you a dissident. And this was after those elections that you're mentioning, I believe, in which
my party lost terribly. That was in 2010.
Yes.
The 9th of June, we had elections and my party lost terribly. And the party of, you might say, the right-wing party of Geert Wilders was a big winner. He was way bigger than us.
The PVV, yes.
The PVV. So this was a terrible blow for us. And so the next day in my group in Parliament was, of course, a very sad day. And then I said, we are all sad and, we lose so many people, not only the colleagues, the parliamentarians, but also the colleagues who help us, the secretaries, everybody, it's sad. But I said, I want to use already this opportunity to say that collaboration in any form with this party, for me, is not an option.
Yeah.
And,
then... I have a clip of that. Let's look how that went, and then we can talk about it a little bit more.
Mijn politieke werk heb ik altijd vanuit mijn hart, mijn geweten en mijn overtuiging gedaan. En dat doe ik ook nu. En dan kan ik niet anders dan tot de conclusie komen dat deze regeringsconstructie met gedoogsteun van een one-issue-beweging als de PVV niet goed is. Niet voor ons land en niet voor onze partij.
So you stood up for your beliefs and you were labeled a dissident. And anything else you would like to say about that time?
Of course, it was a tough period because you get pressure from all sides. Of course, my group in Parliament, we were 19 people. No, sorry, we were 21. And 2 of us out of the 21 said, we are against this. And so the others were not very happy with us. And in the whole party, there were many people who put pressure on us to, to accept this. And there were also other people, also inside our party and outside our party, who said, you have to stand up even stronger. You can prevent it. But in the end, Aldit, you are the one who has to do it. So you have to find your own way. And I never accepted it. What we said in the end, there was 1/3 of my party was against this collaboration. So my colleague at Koppejan, who just like me was against this collaboration, we said we stay, we will not go away. We stay in our group in parliament to represent this 1/3 of our party, and we'll have the discussions inside our group or in parliament, and we will not go outside with it. But this is what we stand for. This is not good.
Did that work out? Did that work out? Because you stuck around another 2 years almost.
Yes.
How did that work out?
Well, it was not easy, of course, because they are not happy with you. But this is what it is. You know what it is, Aldit. You don't go into politics to have a fun time, but to realize the ideals you have. And this was part of it. And so indeed, many people think that when I said after 10 years in 2012, I will not run again for the elections that will take place in 2012. Many people think, oh, it was such a hard time and you were tired and fed up with it. And I say, no, that's not the case. Of course, it was a hard time. But when you enter politics, you have to be prepared for that. It's really my conviction that you should move on. You cannot stay too long as a politician. It's not good. And it was a difficult decision for me because I loved my work.
Yes,
but
and you
found I have to go.
Yeah, but we all know that you were good at your work. We all know you are a very talented woman. So we suddenly see you in all kinds of what shall I call them? Representative functions. One being with the I have to check it. The Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, the OSCE. And this is where the humanizer of humanity, Kathleen Ferrier, is suddenly all over the place. I have a clip of you saying strong stuff at the OSCE Parliament. Let's have a look at that.
In order to ensure a decent and dignified process of migration, it is an absolute necessity to regulate migration flows. But it is also inappropriate to label irregular migrations as illegal, since no human being arrives in this world illegally.
As far as I know, Kathleen, you are the first person to say it that way. Are you? I hadn't ever heard anybody say it before until you did.
Yeah, I said it very often, and not only at the OSCE, also in our own parliament. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is you talking about big subjects on a world stage.
Yeah. So there is the OSCE, the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, and member countries are also Canada, the United States, and and all European countries, also the Central Asian states, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, they're all member. And there is an assembly of the parliamentarians, and I was chosen as one of the representatives from the Netherlands. And within this whole group, I was chosen as special representative on migration. So I followed up on migration, and I traveled a lot. I traveled a lot in the Central Asian countries. I went to Armenia, to Tajikistan, many times to Ukraine, many times to Russia. And also in Europe, I traveled a lot to inform on what was going on with migration and how important it is to guarantee the human dignity of migrants all over the OSCE.
Yeah. So you witnessed firsthand the start of what we now call the Ukraine war. What would you say? What would you say allowed things to get out of hand the way they have?
You know, when you are a member of such a parliamentary assembly, you indeed see and witness and feel the sensitivities there are between countries. And of course, there are many sensitivities between many countries, but a few stood out. And that was certainly one of them was the relation between Ukraine and Russia. And Russia saying Ukraine is part of us, and Ukraine saying, no, we are quite different. And but in that time, you know, that was part of the reality of every day. And I could never imagine that we would end up in this horrible war where Russia actually is attacking and killing the people of Ukraine. I've been there very often, and, you know, it really hurts me. It also hurts me as chair of the Dutch UNESCO Commission, because we already know now how many heritage is being stolen.
Destroyed, yes. Stolen, destroyed. Yeah,
and sold illegally.
How do you think this is going to end? Or
I don't
is
know.
it? No,
I
but
have no, I cannot.
You know
say
more than
any-
we do, Kathleen.
No, I don't. I really don't know. Honestly, Aldit, I don't. I know it's very tough because here are proud people who do not want to give in.
Yeah.
And there are old pains from way a long time ago. And, you know, it comes all to the surface now. And I don't know what will happen. I really don't know. What I see is also here one ogri charo ambong, something very bad also brings something positive, and that finally NATO, European countries see that they have to unite, and European countries are finally getting aware that their position is a minority in the world.
So that is gain. The
That
fact
is
that
gain.
they know it now.
The sense of superiority is based on nothing.
So what is it then that Europe or NATO can do?
At least they should be aware of the importance of collaboration, to have a common agenda, not only in how to deal with this actual crisis, but also regarding the geopolitical changes that are happening so quickly these decades. You know, I lived in Hong Kong, and I have seen there with my own eyes, I have felt what it is, what it means, China that is every day more self-confident.
Yeah.
And with reason.
And
more
with reason,
self-confident,
exactly.
And with reason. So what we have been doing while we were there is trying to wake people up here and say, you're always looking at the United States, turn around a little bit and see what's happening in the East, and have an agenda, how to relate with these powers like Russia, like China.
Yes. And maybe, but this is my own interpretation of things, maybe Western countries should stop ostracizing countries like Russia, countries like China, because first of all, they are stronger than we are. And second of all, it all stems from that superiority that you were mentioning earlier. It is not because we are in the West that we know how to do things better than others.
Exactly. We are not the norm. You know,
we are not the norm.
ways.
Exactly. Well, you've mentioned it a couple of times. We then see you all over Asia.
Yes.
And your what shall we say? Your home ground was Hong Kong for a couple of years.
5 years.
5 years. How did that come about? And tell us a little bit more.
You know, when I said to my party, I will no longer be a member of parliament, which was a difficult decision. My husband saw an advertisement in a newspaper that they were looking for a professor in theology in Hong Kong. And that is exactly what he is. He's a professor in theology. So he applied for the job and he got the job. So we went there and we had 5 fantastic years. We feel so blessed that we lived 10 years in Latin America, in Chile and Brazil, and that now we had the chance to get to know this part of the world. And I started teaching Spanish and Portuguese.
Yes, we'll get to that. But first, we're seeing you thoroughly enjoying yourself there. What is it about Asian life in Asia, that knowing what like you said, you've traveled quite extensively. What is it that sets things apart for you, life in Asia, from the rest?
You know, it was a completely new culture, a new way of thinking. All those years, even before we left, I started to learn Mandarin, Chinese. I wanted to learn the language. It will never happen, only a little bit.
It's complicated.
It is so, but it's so beautiful. It's so fascinating. So, but here you see me in Thailand airport. I was on my way to Myanmar. I have been going very often to Myanmar. I was invited by the National Democratic Institute that was started by Madeleine Albright to work with parliamentarians and specifically with female parliamentarians in Myanmar. So I went there many times and I had to change planes in Bangkok.
In Bangkok,
in Bangkok, in Thailand.
So
I did that. Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I also, so I got involved in academia, not being a professional scientist, not at all. And I also got involved in the Asian University for Women. And that is a place that really is a marvelous place. It is in Chittagong in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh. And I met the person who started this university, a Bangladeshi lawyer, who said our world needs a different kind of leadership, and that is female leadership. And it happens to be that in Asia, there are a lot of female leaders. We already have had more female leaders than in the rest of the world. Mrs. Sukarno, Golda Meir, Aung San Suu Kyi, Indira Gandhi, Tsai Ing-wen, you know, there is a lot of talent, but a lot of this talent will never get the chance to develop because the girls are born in the most underprivileged areas of their countries. So think about the rural area of Afghanistan, the garment industry in Bangladesh or India. Think about tea industry in Sri Lanka. Think about the refugee camps of Rohingyas. You know, the Muslim minority in
China.
Myanmar.
In Myanmar, sorry, yes.
So this university seeks the most talented girls in 17 Central and Middle East Asian countries. And the talent is not whether they are very good at writing or mathematics, but those who have a drive to survive, who can think out of the box. And so in this university today, there are thousands of students. And I used to go there once a year. Now we have been doing it online to teach human rights. And it is fantastic to be there.
How does that look? A course, human rights with the humanizer of humanity, Kathleen Ferrier. What should I be thinking of?
I missed the first part of your question. I didn't hear you.
I was saying, how does that look? A course with the humanizer of humanity, Kathleen Ferrier. A course on humanity. How does that go?
On human rights.
On human rights,
yes. The global practice of human rights. So what I do with the students, and you should imagine it's very hot. It's it's not a beautiful building, to put it like that. And then I have a room packed with 40 or 50 highly motivated girls from many different countries. And so what I do with them in general, we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, how it came about, what the different articles are. And these girls do not sit quietly, listen to what I'm saying. When I say there is a Universal Declaration of Human Rights and it was elaborated by Eleanor Roosevelt, and I tell them how it went, they say, Professor, it's not universal. The Western countries found it out. In my country, there are no human rights. When you're a girl, you have no human rights. So everything is a discussion, and it is wonderful. So we go through it, and then they elaborate on certain articles of the Global Declaration, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And for instance, same-sex marriages are things they find hugely important to discuss, because they come from parts where it is totally unthinkable that you discuss these things. And I hear the most amazing stories, and I see the most amazing, powerful young women. And it saddens me so deeply that, you know, what happened in Afghanistan last summer and what is still going on. I've had many students from Afghanistan, and they called me and they text me and they say, Professor, I'm working as a policy maker in the Ministry of Internal Affairs here in Kabul. The Taliban is knocking at my door. They say, in 2 weeks, you're married and you'll have children. That is what you're for, what you're doing in the ministry.
Well, and it's in full effect now, isn't it?
We started an action to get them out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to hope and pray. But this is still ongoing. You're still giving these courses. You're still the professor.
I'm still related to, and they asked me to come in December. But I'm not sure whether I can make it this year. But
I'll probably be asking you to join me on a project in Jamaica, right up your sleeve. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Let's have a look, because you were there when the Hong Kong protests took place.
Yes, I was there. I was there when it started in 2014. When the students sat down on the street in the central part of the city. So, you know, imagine that during 76 days, the A10 or the A1 here in the Netherlands is high roads, totally blocked. No way of going through. And that is when the students started to protest the growing influence from China, because then a new chief executive of the city had to be chosen. And then China said, you know what? In 1997, when Hong Kong was handed over by the British, who held Hong Kong a colony for many decades, but the city was handed over to China. There was a problem. There was a promise that the system would be of one country, two systems. So there's
one country, two systems. Yes.
There's one country, that's China, but in China there are two systems: an authoritarian system ruled by the Communist Party, and a more democratic system in Hong Kong and in Manaus, where elections are allowed, where transparent rule of law, judiciary is in place, where there is freedom of expression, and that was agreed. And so in 2014, when there had to be chosen a new chief executive, like the mayor of Hong Kong, so China said, we have one country, two systems. And Hong Kong, you can have elections. Perfect. We have no elections in China, but you're the Democratic Party. You can go ahead with your election. But we determine who the candidates are.
Yeah.
And so the students went out on the street. And since then, we have seen the influence of China growing in the city. And then in 2019, it all exploded. when the chief executive, Carrie Lam, wanted to have a law, an extradition law, that would make it possible to extradite people. You can see it in the picture. In a city of 7 million people, 2 million people out on the street in a Sunday afternoon, protesting against this extradition law, because it would mean that people from Hong Kong could be extradited to China, and then you can no longer guarantee a free and transparent rule of law.
Exactly.
So everybody went out on the streets. And what also happened, I was there in 2019 when the last democratic elections took place. And that was a huge success for the pro-democracy candidates. Out of 18 city councils, 17 became totally democratic. You know, the democratic candidates won.
Yes. Yes.
And that was when China said, this is enough.
This is over. Yeah.
We will not accept it.
In fact, China is doing more or less the same now with Taiwan, which is not really comparable, but in a way it's kind of comparable.
Yeah.
How do you think that will end? As you know, I was in Taiwan. I simply love that country.
I can imagine. Beautiful place.
Oh, wonderful.
So you know, people asked me when all these protests were going on in 2019 also, they said, how will this end? China cannot accept it. What will they do? Will they send their tanks down in the streets? And I said, no, that will not happen. China has other ways. And that's what happened, because the 1st of July, 2020, a law was put in place in Hong Kong, the national security law, which ended, you know, it's
democracy.
Yeah, no, I cannot say it ended democracy. It made it all very difficult. When it comes to Taiwan, Aldit, China is always very transparent. We all know what China is going to do, because China has always said, Taiwan is China. Sooner or later, we go and we take back.
Take it back.
We take it back. Sooner, it was already said during the first meeting with Nixon back in 1982, I guess, in 1982. The then president already said to Nixon, you know, perhaps not now, I do not know when, but we will bring Taiwan home. Of course, it's part of China. So it will happen, Aldit.
It will.
No
it will.
illusion.
I'm so sad about this. I did read something about Taiwan and the United States going into conversations about this sometime soon. Will that help?
No, yes.
China.
Well, let us see what happens. You know, Biden a few days ago said when China takes Taiwan by force, we will not let that happen. We will fight back. Yeah, that was not a very wise thing to say.
He doesn't do many wise things. And also, we must never forget the way that the United States is in debt in China. So China will definitely win that, will they not?
Well, I think so.
We'll have to wait. And I do hope my friends will be safe. That's all I can say. Enough about politics for now. I did promise you that we would touch on your other siblings as well. Your half-brothers and sister, Derek, Cynthia, and Leo. Derek and Leo have unfortunately left us. Cynthia is still with us. Did you grow up with these three? How did that go?
No, not three, 6.
6?
I have 6 half-brothers and sisters. My father, my father married 2 times.
Yes.
His first wife passed away, and he had 6 children with her, 4 boys and 2 girls. And then he married my mother, and he got 2 more girls. So my father had 8 children, 4 boys, 4 girls.
Very prolific.
Of course, yes. And, you know, all that. So we grew up together, but when you're very young, the difference in age, it's about 20 years difference of age, is a lot. So when we were very young, they were more like I experience them like uncles or
Uncles and aunts. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
But once you're grown up, and specifically when I became a mother, the difference of age completely faded away.
Isn't that
We are
funny?
very close.
Please name the other three that I did not know about. There's
So
three
my
more.
sister Helen is the
Mhm,
oldest. She
mhm.
is alive. Then Derek was born. He passed away last January. We're
I
very
remember.
sad
Yes,
about it.
yes,
Then
very sad.
we
Yeah.
had Robin, Robin Ferrier, my brother Robin. Then
Mhm.
we had Stanley. Then we have Cynthia. And then the youngest one is Leo.
I
Leo and
see.
Cynthia are famous writers. Leo is a
They
great
definitely
writer.
are, very
Yes.
definitely so. Yes, and of course we are all a little bit. Hold on. Oh no, this is. I've got them mixed up. Let me go here first. Cynthia and you. We
Yeah.
Cynthia is quite in the Netherlands a very popular author and speaker. I've had the immense pleasure of having her on my stage a couple of times. This one being the history lesson you never had, all about women in history
Yes.
who do not ever get a mention in the books.
Yes.
What is your relationship with Cynthia like?
It's a very close relationship. Close sisters. You know, she is 20 years older than I am, but
Mhm.
we have a lot of contact. We talk a lot about everything, and when I'm in Suriname, I stay with her, and she always gives me advice, and I also give her advice. I say to her, do not do everything, take it quietly, and when they invite you, do not step in 20 trains and buses, but take a cab, things like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we are very close. And my sister Helen, so out of the 8 children of my father, my sister Helen, my sister Cynthia, and I are still alive, and we are very close. I'm also very close with Helen. Actually, the two of them are now in the Netherlands, and we see each other often.
That is wonderful. My brother was actually taught by Cynthia in elementary school. He
Aha,
remembers that, and she remembers my eldest sister, whom she taught later on. She told me that when she was here. So isn't it funny how our families are kind of intertwined? Because your dad
exactly.
and my dad knew each other well as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And then there's the other sister that we mentioned earlier, Joan. Your full sister. One can tell what a bubbly,
Yeah,
life-loving person she was,
yeah,
and how close you were.
yeah.
Anything you would like to say about Joan, so she will always be remembered by people watching this
Yeah,
later?
it's like you say, she was a life-loving person. She loved life. She loved every day. And her saying was, make every day a beautiful day. Whatever your circumstances are, make the best out of it.
Mhm.
So that was her way of living. And she achieved enormous things. You can believe it, Aldit. I was saying to you, it's 8 years ago that she passed away. At least twice or 3 or 4 times a month, I meet people I've never met before who come
Mhm.
up to me with tears in their eyes, who say to me, you do not know who I am, but I know who you are. You are Joan's sister.
Wow.
Joan changed my life. She was like my mother. She worked, she studied uh, pedagogy.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't even know how
pedagogy.
to pronounce it.
Yeah, and
People look it up.
she
Pedagogy. Yes.
specialized
Mhm.
in problems young people from cultural or ethnic minorities face in Dutch society. And
Mhm.
so she came up with concrete plans to solve these problems, and she achieved a lot. I was the other day. I was buying cheese in the Dappermarkt
Yes.
and I was
And
staying quietly. And when it was my turn, I asked person who was selling cheese. I said, can I have a piece of that cheese? And a woman turned around and she says, the voice. This is Joan's voice. She said, I was a very small child when your sister started a home for Moroccan girls who have entered into problems, who lost the relationship with their families. And Joan restored the relationship. We talk about Joan so often in our family. We are always grateful to her. So that is how she started. And then she became a forefighter for women's rights.
She did.
And
yes.
also for that, she is very much known and still very much known, not only here, but also when I travel to New York before COVID, there are always women who remember her input in the United Nations, standing up for the rights of women around the globe. So she achieved a lot, and she should not have left us. But okay, it's not in our hands.
It is not. And from what I hear, her character was very much like my sister Aisha's. And we've talked about this in the past, you and I, Kathleen. What position a sister like that holds in your life, and how losing her has maybe changed you or formed you, or do you also have the feeling that you need to carry on her legacy in some way?
Absolutely. I feel it as a huge responsibility. Yes, also, my parents' legacy, the importance of education, knowing that your country, anything you can do for your country, you should do it. Do not hesitate a second. Do it. That sense of dedication, which Joan also had so strongly. I feel it as a huge responsibility to continue this and to carry their legacy on.
I know that sisters like ours do not rest in peace; they rule in paradise. So that is what I hope. They rule in paradise. Yes.
Yeah. One of the legacies of Joan is that she started the Johan Ferrier Fonds, of which you are a very important person for us, to keep the vision of our parents and my father alive in Suriname.
Yes.
And that is being independent, taking your own decisions, deciding for yourself what you want and what you do not want.
Exactly.
And therefore, we support projects related to culture and education in Suriname.
Yes, and you do these wonderful events. I think once every 2 years.
Yes.
This year, no. When was the last
not
one?
This year. Next year.
No,
we will
next
have
year,
one.
right?
Yes.
And I've been a part of a couple of them in which you
a very dear and important part.
It's a lovely event that you call me, I come. You know that, Kathleen. You know that. Look at the time already, and we still need to start talking about your work, your work at UNESCO.
Yes.
So UNESCO is about heritage. It's about history. It's about culture. Am I right? It's more.
Yeah.
It's more.
Let me tell you this, and it's so important to be aware of this, especially in these days, with the war so near. So when the Second World War ended, and people said this should never happen again. How can we prevent another world war from happening? So people sat around the table and they created the United Nations with the idea to prevent a world war from happening again. Never again. So they said, to guarantee world peace, we need three things. We need to balance richnesses, so equal distribution of richnesses. We need international tribunals who can judge out of national courts on genocides of people. And when we look at what has been achieved so far, we see that we have a World Bank, we have an International Monetary Fund, we have all these regional development banks. So it's not perfect, but steps have been taken. When we look at the international tribunals in The Hague, here in the Netherlands, there are very prestigious international tribunals where perpetrators of genocide and human rights can be judged out of their countries. And the third pillar for world peace that the people around the table by then said is everything that unites people because of the fact that they are simply human beings. And that is art, culture, education, science, communication, heritage, to know where we come from.
Mhm.
And that is why UNESCO was started. And what we see, and that is, the UNESCO does this all. And what we see is that right now in this war that has started in Ukraine and Russia, right now we see the importance of stressing that what binds people together. The motto of UNESCO is, since wars begin in the minds of men and women, it is in the minds of men and women that images and ideas of peace have to be created. And so our mission is more important than ever before. And I'm so happy and proud and privileged that I can be the chair of the Dutch UNESCO Commission and try
and
to make this
we
happen.
are also very proud of you too. And I do see the objective of UNESCO. But if you'll allow me just one little niggling question, because you did mention the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank and such. And as you know, I have a life in Europe and a life in Jamaica. And what I do notice is that these organizations, the IMF, the World Bank, are not, let's say, they really do not work for countries like Jamaica. The Global South is actually suffering from a lot of regulations coming out of those organizations. What would you say to that?
I recognize that very much. That's also why the regional banks are interesting, the Inter-American Development Bank, when we talk about the Caribbean region. And of course, a lot is not functioning well. It's not functioning perfectly. I absolutely recognize it. And there is a lot of work to do, but a lot has been achieved also.
Yes.
I always say, I know it's not perfect. Absolutely not. But the United Nations is the only place where all these countries sit around the table and talk about difficult matters.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the World Bank and the IMF, it is absolutely true that a lot has to improve, but also in the Caribbean, they have achieved things. If we should imagine what would not have happened if they would not exist,
yes,
things would even be worse. But I agree with you, it's far from perfect.
Do you think that the answer to this very huge conundrum that we are dealing with, the answer lies, according to me, where we started this conversation, in realizing that the Western world, Europe, the United States, they are not the navel of the world. They are not the center of. What can you, as a chairperson of UNESCO, do or say to make that the topic that we are going to be talking about in the coming 10, 15 years?
The nice thing is that I do not even have to say very much, because at UNESCO it is clear. To give you an example, the big gathering of UNESCO is the World Heritage Committee that takes place once a year. Mm-hmm. And this year it happens to be that Russia is the chair of the World Heritage Committee. And it happens to be that this should take place in Russia. So the European countries said, this cannot happen, we will not do it. And then Europe realized that this is a minority stance, because 2/3 of the countries around the table say, well, we're not so sure about whether that would be that bad. Okay, Russia's the chair, okay. So what was achieved is that the meeting is postponed. But Kazan is still the place where it should,
where it's going to be.
where it should happen, and Russia is still the chair. And more, I've been in the meetings in Paris because UNESCO is based in Paris. And when you sit there, and I talk with the diplomats from the different European countries and from the United States and Canada and Australia, and all see that they are no longer the leading countries. It is Africa. It is Africa that builds the bridges when there are problems. It is Latin America that stands up before Europe can stand up for certain violations of human
Kathleen,
rights.
are you saying that the Global South is doing the dirty work again?
No, this is not the dirty work. This is not the dirty work. This is taking the lead and showing to Europe, you're not the one who decides how things are done. We will tell you how we want to solve this problem, and we will make it work. Watch us.
Well,
and this is very interesting.
It is a very interesting time. And what you're saying now takes us back to where we started yet again, because we started with saying there's a lot going on in the Caribbean right now. One of my favorite people on earth right now must be Mia Mottley, the Prime Minister of Barbados.
Yeah, and we all adore her,
don't we? She was elected Person of the Year, I believe, by Time. Yay, Mia!
Yeah.
So let's end there. Let us end with a question I asked my friend Kimberly McRae, who is still in the comments and very active there. Hi, Kim, again. I asked the question to Kimberly. At one point in history, women were the ones leading the way, and we let it slide. And what are we going to do to get the power back, Kathleen Ferrier? I want to hear it from you.
Yes, we are already getting it back. No, but that is absolutely true. I like this Bangladeshi lawyer who says we need a different kind of leadership. Men can no longer handle these problems. A Bangladeshi lawyer, mind you.
And tell us why, because before people start saying, yeah, you hate men and all that. What is it about
I don't hate men.
No, neither do I. But what is it about male leadership that does not work anymore? That should be replaced at least for a while.
I think that one of the most important skills that leaders need today is empathy, in the sense that you see yourself in others. And it's simply a fact that women, and let me say female leaders, because there are women who are more masculine leaders. When they are in power, they are more masculine than 100 men. And there are men who really have the feminine skills to be a leader. So what is the center of it is empathy. The ability to see yourself in others, and to
what does that change politically if you see yourself in others? What concretely changes then?
It changes two things. It changes in the first place that you are aware that you are not the norm. It's the sense of superiority. You lose it when you see others, when you see yourself in others and others see you in themselves. So there is no superiority. That's one. And secondly, you become aware that you alone are nothing. You need others to survive. And women, I've seen it when I was living in Chile and Brazil, who have the responsibility often to feed and raise children themselves, are creative in finding ways of feeding their children, sending them to school. And that is the way of worldview that we need.
That is exactly what we need to be doing. And it's more practical also what women do, isn't it? It's all practical. About solving a problem that's there instead of working with a model.
Yes.
And I'm not talking a photo model. I'm talking an economical model.
An economical model.
Yes, exactly.
Sure.
Yeah. Wonderful, Kathleen. And you're definitely in the forefront there, linking people to each other, throwing out new ideas, sticking to them, being that what's the word I'm looking for? consistent person in sharing your views. We know who you are, and we know what you stand for, which is a great thing. And I have to say, we all thank you for doing the work that you do.
No.
Oh yes, Kathleen, it must be said. We must say these things to each other. We do. So here am I telling you that this is how I see you, and what I really, really appreciate about everything that you do, because there is a consistency in your work, even if you have, taken many different roads and different places to live and all of that. What you do, there is a consistency to it. I'm going to let you round up in just a little bit, but before we get to that, I need to tell my viewers that the next episode of PocaTV Live will not be in June. I'm skipping a month. I am just too swamped with work in the whole month of June to do a PocaTV Live. So my next episode will be in July, and that will be on what date is it? On July the 29th. And my very esteemed guest then will be Daniel Hickey, who you saw already in the short program I did, the tribute I did to my teacher, Mr. Fabisak, in, was it March? Was it April? I don't remember. But Daniel Hickey was there. He is the son of a missionary. He's done a lot of work himself in that field. He's a teacher. He's now an author as well. He lives in the United States and in Brazil, which is where I met him when I was a teenager. So Daniel Hickey will be my guest on the 29th of July at 6 o'clock in the evening, Central European time. So yes, Kathleen, look at that time. This is the longest program I've done so far. I knew it was going to happen, and I love it. What would you like to leave us with? Is there a certain thought that you think, yes, she didn't ask, but I need to tell?
No, no, I do not. I actually do not have something that I still want to say. What I want to give all listeners, and I want to thank everybody for the comments and being involved, and the motto of my sister. And because I love the way you give tribute to your sister, I want to give tribute to my sister Joan by giving you her motto, which is for me personally also so important, and that is, make every day a beautiful day. Whatever the circumstances are, and often they are very difficult, but look at what there is to make the day a beautiful day.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's another thing she shared with my sister Aisha. They looked at life. They always saw the good, even in a bad situation.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Kimberly would like to know, how can she follow all the work that you're doing? Can she follow you on your socials or on your website?
Yeah. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. And I'm on Instagram, but I often forget Insta.
Yeah.
I do a lot on Twitter, more professionally, and Facebook is a bit more personally. But that is, and LinkedIn, I share what I do.
Exactly. So Kimberly, just go to my friends and you'll find Kathleen, and you can find her there. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Yes, thank you, Kimberly. Let me see. What is this? What Evelyn says? She enjoyed the new form to begin the PhD tour, not college tour, with reflecting on the 4 guests. Yes, okay. The way that we checked on what Francio said last month. Thank you, Evelyn. I will be continuing doing that. This brings us very sadly to the end of this program, Kathleen. But I know I will be seeing you again soon, because your paths and mine, they keep crossing. Thank you so much for taking time in your very extremely busy schedule to have this wonderful talk with me. And let me tell everybody, this will remain online indefinitely. So it would be lovely if you shared this in your network, Kathleen. I think the world needs to see.
I will.
Please do that. Any plans for the weekend, or just work, or just leisure? Which one is it going to be?
Let me tell you something. I will go to Statia on Sunday to work.
Really?
Yeah. To be there for work. We were invited by by the members of the council, because there will be elections and new council members will come and we will have discussions with them. And while I'm there, we have a very full program with the politicians, but one afternoon I will dedicate to UNESCO and go to very special sites. There are 2 sites in Stasia where it is assumed that slaves are buried there, and so I will have a look, because we try to see if Stasia can become part of the UNESCO slave route program, which is very prestigious. Yeah,
very prestigious indeed. Well, the best of luck with that, and it's always great to go to the Caribbean. So have fun as well in Stasia. Safe travels, and once again, thank you so very, very much for joining me.
And thank you so much for having me, Aldit. It's always a joy to see you and talk to you. I'm so grateful for our friendship. Thank you.
And so am I. Thank you. Good night, Kathleen. Good night. Yes. So that was Kathleen Ferrier. Isn't that a wonderful person to have a conversation with? There's so much we can learn from her. So do find out all of the other stuff that she does. And do join me at the end of July, as I was saying. What date was it? Oh, people, I've forgotten already. It's July the 29th. I will be back then with Daniel Hickey. And in the meantime, I'm going to end now with a video called Humanity, because as you noticed, this was about humanity, this whole program. Don't be put off by the start, is what I'm going to say. I'll see you in July. Until such time, my dear people, be good, be kind, be human, and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Humanity, with love and respect. It's time to give up. Not a single person feels that keeping our distance has brought us closer. Racism will always exist. You're wrong to assume that people have changed. Life lessons won't matter when we look back at missed opportunities. The disaster we were in made us forget about doing random acts of kindness, because our individual desire takes priority over a greater good for all. 2020 made it clear. Things won't be better this coming year. You're mistaken if you believe faith is stronger than fear. Wearing a mask is pointless. And I'd be crazy if I said, I'm alive today because of you. Now let's read it in reverse and change our point of view. I'm alive today because of you. And I'd be crazy if I said wearing a mask is pointless. Faith is stronger than fear. You're mistaken if you believe things won't be better this coming year. 2020 made it clear. A greater good for all takes priority over our individual desire, because doing random acts of kindness made us forget about the disaster we were in. Missed opportunities won't matter when we look back at life lessons. People have changed. You're wrong to assume that racism will always exist. Keeping our distance has brought us closer. Not a single person feels that it's time to give up. With love and respect,